Welcome to this week's episode of the Aiming Five Hole Podcast with Phil and Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing well. What a week. What a
What a week.
surprising, shocking week in hockey.
Yeah, but also let's start off with some great news that you guys getting some rain out there in LA and the fires seem to be under control. So that's
Yep.
great news. Let's celebrate that
Yep.
first
Fires
off.
out, mudslides in, honestly,
If you do, damn if you don't.
this is like the testing ground for Armageddon. So we go through one natural disaster after another.
There you go. Well, great news. But yeah, absolutely crazy week in hockey. We've had our first big trade of the season, massive move by Colorado and the Carolina, which we'll get to. Big news out of the Four Nations with Pietrangelo having to pull out due to some injuries. Um,
Which will
and
fit in nicely
which
with
will
our
fit
final
in well
segment.
nicely. And we're obviously going to start off where we always do with our Leafs and Habs. Do you want to go
Yep.
first? Do you want me to go
Yeah,
first?
sure. So the Canadians have lost 2 out of 3 this week, including their last two. Um, Came out sluggish in all 3 games. Have to say, I'm a little bit concerned. The defensive play um, has definitely fallen off, both on the odd man rush front and also in the breaking the cycle in their own zone. Uh, but they've got a lot of fight in them. Maybe they're a little tired. I don't know. Like their January schedule was bonkers. So maybe I'm gonna give them a break. I'm not back on the couch. I don't need my head examined. I don't need my emotions controlled or anything. It's all good. We'll see what happens over
The
the
red
next few
light's off
games.
right now outside the office. It can be turned back on if you need it.
Thank you. Flip the switch.
Flip the switch.
Flip the switch. But it was good. Look, Jakub Dobish has come back to earth a little bit, although he's played very solidly. He hasn't played spectacularly. Um, look, not a ton to say. Caulfield is scoring more goals. The first line's looking great. Yeah, Slavkovsky's looking pretty good. Just liking the way the team is going. It's
Yeah.
not, the results haven't been there, and I'm, getting a little bit concerned about the defensive play a little bit, like I said. But overall, let's wait, see how they finish up before the Four Nations break.
Hey, they're not out of it here yet. They're obviously still
No, they're
playing.
two
They're
points
still,
out
like
of a
we've talked
playoff
about
spot.
this, still you got the Bruins sliding. Tampa Bay seems to be sliding a little bit. Jackets have seemingly cooled off a little bit, although they hammered the Leafs.
Yeah,
But
the
they're
Rangers are back into it. I'm worried
yeah,
about the Rangers
yeah, I'm
now.
worried about the Rangers as well, but I don't know. I'm not convinced of them yet. I got to see a little bit more out of them. But who knows? But I watched a little bit of the Habs this week. They seem to be having a little same problems the Leafs are with some slow starts. I mean,
Yeah,
seeing your text messages during the week when I don't get into the game right away, and I see, oh, we've got
text
another rough start. Oh, they're dragging their
sleepwalking.
butts again. They're sleepwalking. All your metaphors are coming out, and then I tune in and I go, dude, it's tied or they're up. Like, what's going on? And I tune
Yeah,
into the game, and maybe I'm their good luck charm. Maybe I need to stop watching. No, no.
it's all good.
Or at
It's
least
all
you
good.
don't have the.
How about the Leafs?
Well, at
Other
least you
than the
don't
slow
have.
starts,
Yeah, slow. I don't. It's tough to bag on them right now. I think, at least you don't have the problem in Montreal we got in Toronto right now. Our infirmary injury report right now is just growing by the day. Now we're without Dewar, we're out without Nyes now. We're out. Tavares is out. Stolarz is obviously still out, although it's good news he's starting to skate again. Maybe he'll get a game or two in before the Four
right?
Nations break, but we need to get healthy. It's just showing right now. It continues to be the biggest issue for us is health. And because of we're not healthy, the bottom six are just doing nothing. And when the top six don't score, we just don't have anything in the tank to beat anybody.
Yeah,
And losing to Columbus, and then losing to Ottawa, it just showed we had plenty of chances against Ottawa. We just couldn't score. And like I said,
yeah.
they're shutting down the first two lines in the
Is
second two.
67 back in the lineup yet? Or
No, Patch is ready is out as well.
oh,
So,
jeez,
see, look at, did you like that? I got that. I'm not a big Patch ready fan, but I got that.
you know his number.
Um, I know his number, but
His big
hey, look,
number.
he's been a pleasant surprise for me this year. I said that, from the beginning, but we need to get healthy, and I can't wait for Treleaven to do something here and make a move. But we need to get healthy. We need to get the lineup back straight, and we need to get some alternative scoring going. And if they can't do it with the group that's there, and I'm not convinced the bottom six can, then we need to make some moves,
Well,
and it's
okay.
got to happen
So
soon.
there is an example in the marketplace of something that Treliving can take a look at and use as inspiration. Let's talk about.
Lo and behold, what a trade this week. Did anybody see that coming? Everybody knew that
I'll tell you who didn't see
Colorado,
it. I'll tell you who
well,
didn't see it
the
coming was
players didn't see it
McKinnon.
coming. McKinnon didn't see it coming. Necas didn't see it coming.
Yeah,
And from all
Rantanen.
the interviews I've seen, Rantanen didn't see it coming.
Yeah,
So the probably only guy in all of that that saw it coming was Taylor Hall.
yeah.
The
Well, yeah.
throw-in
It just
piece
probably
of how
happened faster than he thought.
happened. But let's talk about this trade because this is huge. It has so many ramifications on the league. These were two elite players that got traded for each other. They're not that far off on the scoring. Ratnan had 25 goals, 39 assists, 64 points. No slouch, assistant captain of his team. Necas had 16 goals, 39 assists, 55 points. Both are key contributors to their teams. Necas is 26, Ratanen's 28, so they're not far in age. With a big comparison here is, and the reason we all know that this happened was over salary. Mikko Rantanen is at the end of his contract, getting paid 9.5 million a year. He's had such great seasons. The last 9 seasons with the Avalanche, he's
Yeah,
played
hit the 50
great.
goal mark last
Like,
year.
come on, this guy has been producing, and this is a numbers game for the Colorado Avalanche. Martin Necas has another year beyond this year at 6.5, so they're saving
Yep.
$3 million and more because there was no way Rantanen was going to sign again for $9.5 million. He wants more. And let's just look at this because I sent you a text earlier in the week at some of the numbers that they're talking about. When you look at the players that he's going to try and mark himself against, you got his own captain, his own best friend, McKinnon, making 12.6 million, the highest paid guy right now on the Avalanche. You don't need to look any further. They were not going to make Rantanen a more expensive player than
Well,
McKinnon.
yeah, well, and I think it goes beyond that too, right? Like you've also got the scenario where they're going to have to pay Cale Makar in a year or two,
Well, year two, actually,
and
his
so
his
you're not going
contract
to.
goes through 26, 27s. But you're right, they're saving some
Yeah,
some.
in a couple of years, they're going to have to pay Cale Makar 15, $16 million.
Right, right, right.
And
But you look at the comparisons out there for, I'm sorry, I'm trying to cut you off here, is that Nylander at 11 and a half, Draisaitl at 14, all guys
yeah,
that are in that same point range as him. You got Matthews at 13 and a half. You got Panarin at 11.6, Pasternak at 11 and a half. So Ratnan's going, look, man, I'm in the same category with these guys from a points, and I've been producing for 9 years.
and
I
he
deserve
is.
some money. I guess the biggest shakeup in all of this is that if you listen to him talking, as agent talking, they're kind of going like there was no communicate. There was some communication, but it was very clear from the beginning that they weren't going there in that number. And okay, we're just trading him. We got an offer, and let's go.
Look, it was clear that he wasn't going to take a hometown discount.
Yeah.
Colorado just decided they're looking down the road, right? They're not going to be able to sign him for 2 years until they've got to re-sign Makar. Makar is the absolute, like, he's irreplaceable.
He's the stud on the back end. You can eat
He's
him.
irreplaceable. So you have a scenario where you could be playing, depending on where the salary cap goes, you could be paying over 40% of your salary cap to 3 guys.
Well, this is we'll get into Leafs in a few
Right.
minutes here.
And so Colorado said, well, we're going to get ahead of that now.
Yes.
And we'll make the deal. Let's look at what they got. Okay. They got a salary cap break, right? By trading $9.5 million for $6.5 million. So that's $3 million more to play with. Okay.
Right.
They're going to make another deal. They're going to pick up
Absolutely
a second line guy for sure. The next thing to think about is what did they get in Necas? He is McKinnon, McDavid level speed.
Yes.
And so they think, all right, what happens? Let's play this out in our heads. What happens if you take 2 of the 5 fastest players in the world and put them on a line together? What could happen?
Well, we saw,
and I think that's bonkers to think about, right? Like, wow, this could be like McDavid, Draisaitl level of fun to watch.
yes.
Now, when they're set up on a power play, it might not be quite as fun to watch because Rantanen is a big guy, defensively responsible, plays the bumper really well. Like that's like that power play was something special. But off the rush, McKinnon and Necas could be
Oh, just moving the puck, getting
unbelievable.
out of your zone and being able to exit your zone with speed and having those two guys is just an amazing opportunity. And they're not losing a lot when it comes to points. They're losing a bit. Obviously, you're saying that
They're also
was a
losing
much
some
bigger
defensive.
guy, much
Yeah,
bigger
they're
guy.
losing
But
some defensive
yeah, and
responsibility.
they're losing obviously a guy, and they've got the him and McKinnon were so well entwined
Close.
and good buddies and played together. So you're losing that. But I want to go back to the points you make in terms of the salary and the salary cap, because the salary cap right now is $88 million.
It's going way up.
Well, here's the thing. It depends on where they go with the CBA, the the bargaining chip, because the max increase is 5%. So let's just say next year the increase is to the max is nine, so it'll be 92.4 million next year. Now
Right.
the CBA goes through the 25-26 season. So there is
Yep.
some thought that this could be negotiated and there could be a new CBA before this one ends. The question mark is, what will the salary cap be associated to that? And I think that's what you're talking about. And there's been talk about it going to 100 million. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of talk this weekend and some articles and conversation, obviously, around the hockey world after this trade went down, is that there's a lot of teams that are really nervous about that salary cap level. And
Well, there
there's
are
a lot of teams
also
that don't
there's
want to
also a
go
lot of
there.
talk that it might be in everybody's interest um, to smooth that out over time and don't
Yes.
jump too fast because you want every player who becomes a free agent to have sort of an equal opportunity to share in that increased value.
Yes.
As well as you don't want to shock the system too badly for the teams as well, whose
Right.
revenues might not be going up quite as fast. But yeah, look,
But here's the story. The point I wanted to finish on that, and I apologize to cut you off again, is that is that Colorado, as a great of a team they are and a great of organization, they are still considered a small market team. And
are they?
I got well, they're in a small market. Colorado's not exactly a huge market. They're a big hockey market. I don't think that's a big market when it comes to just size of economy and all that. I don't think so. You tell me different. I'm not, maybe I'm blowing smoke, but
I
it
don't know.
feels
I don't know
it's
what you're
not with the
talking
same
about.
of Toronto, Montreal, New York, LA,
No.
Boston. It's just not the same size. And I think they're nervous about having a salary cap and having, like to your point, three or four guys up around that $15 million mark, and that hurts. I, Colorado's always been a team that's been able to spread things out over a larger body of people, and when you start doing paying three, four guys $15 million or being at that top end, we've seen what's happening in Toronto. I've just said this is that they
Yeah.
got four guys up in that mark, and we don't have any secondary scoring. Our problem has been for the last 3 years the bottom six, and we can't fix it with four guys making 12 million plus. Like, this is my problem, and I've said it from the beginning. You grilled me many times about this. You drilled me on this a couple of times. Is this first sale sign there on Marner? For me, it just went up and it just got larger, because this tells me this is the same thing. Marner right now is making $10.9 million. He's clearly a great player. Don't get me wrong. But you got Matthews at 14. What did I say Matthews was at? Matthews
13
at
something.
13.25. Marner wants that or more. And Nylander's at 11 and a half. Tavares is at 11. He's going to get less in this, but he's playing so great. How much of a discount you're going to get from him? And Riley's at 7.5. The problem is we just can't have these four guys making that much money because our bottom end sucks.
Yeah.
Right? We're
And
getting lucky, right? Well, we're
Colorado's
also
stronger on the back end too.
right, and we're getting lucky with our goaltending right now. Stolhars is a bargain, Wool is a bargain, but you're going to have to pay these guys in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you do, right? You can't keep paying these top three or four guys that kind of money. So for me, yes, the situation is completely different. Rantanen had a minimum movement clause. Carolina was not part of that minimum movement
Yep.
clause, and Marner has a full no trade clause. So that's the problem. But you're going to have to go to him. He's not going to want to go anywhere and not want to delay. But
Yeah.
the team has to invest. Given this magnitude of a trade, the Leafs have to consider moving him or at least talking to the market and see what the market would bear for
See
him,
what's out there.
because you're not
Yeah,
doing
okay.
your team a
So the
justice.
rationale, what you're saying is because you support this so much on the Marner scenario, you you agree with what Colorado has done. Do you think they got enough?
I think time will tell. Let's see what happens in the playoffs. I think they got a fair return. They didn't have to retain any of his salary. They got
Yeah.
Chicago to take 50% of it. And then Taylor Hall, you just said it before we got on this podcast. They got a third rounder to take
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. We will get to that. We'll
yeah,
talk about all three
so
teams.
but Necas, like maybe they didn't get equal value, but they got a big return for them. Necas is
They got
no
a great
slouch. They got a
player.
good return, a great player that has another year, so they don't have to
Yeah.
worry about him for one more year. And Rantanen at the end of the year could have walked. And this is the same problem the Leafs have with Marner. They don't win the Stanley Cup. They're not going to pay him 14. If they pay him 14 million, our bottom six is going to continue to suck. And Colorado didn't want to do that. And Colorado
Yep.
has been a perennial a playoff contender and a contender in the league. They continue to be that. The only, I guess, knock against Colorado, and we didn't talk about this, is that go blow smoke in this is that they just played Blackwood $5 million.
Yeah.
A goalie has done nothing. He's playing well for them. Don't get me wrong, but is he worth $5 million? Like, if I'm Rantanen, and he's obviously caught way off guard on this. He's
Yeah.
pissed that this has happened. I don't blame him, but I also don't blame the Colorado Avalanche. They want to spread the money out between more players and be depth. We've seen how good, like Florida Panthers, it got to be the template right now. They had, like we said, this 4 lines of depth. They weren't overpaying 5 guys.
Yeah.
So
Look, it makes sense. It makes sense, and I think I'm not going to make a call on Colorado's side of things until I see what else they do at the deadline with the extra money that they have. From Carolina's perspective, wow,
they're going for it.
They traded a year of a star to get a superstar and hope to re-sign him, and they pick up Taylor Hall, who's a really good depth scoring piece. I think it's a home run for them.
Oh, no question. And they only took 50% of his salary.
It's a home run for them.
Yeah, and they only took 50% of the salary.
Yeah.
And they gave up I guess they gave up a couple draft picks.
Yeah.
Obviously Necas as well too, but they got a superstar, as you said, and this is going for it as far as in Carolina's world. Now there's definitely a small market team. They're going for it.
Yeah.
This
so the consequences of them going for it. Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm so happy to see Dundon do this. It's wonderful. We'll talk about the other repercussions in the Eastern Conference as a result of that. But before we get to that, you can't leave out the third team in the trade. And the reason why you can't do that is because I've been relishing the idea of absolutely dumping all over Chicago for this trade, which made zero sense to me at all. It was really like, this Taylor Hall is a valuable asset. He's definitely going to get traded, but you couldn't do more than get a third round pick and then take increased salary off your cap.
I hear you, and I agree with you. They probably could have done better for Taylor Hall, but let's be honest on Taylor Hall. He is being he's had a good career. He hasn't had a great career. He didn't deliver on his promise that he had when he came into the league in being that star elite player. He's been a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's now bounced around to 4 or 5 teams, and so he's a bit of a journeyman. He's probably in the later half of his career here.
Oh, absolutely.
He's doing okay,
absolutely.
but he's
worth
only
more than a third rounder in cap.
Yeah, I agree with you. It still befuddles me, but I think this is just Chicago going, we're not re-signing him. Let's get something for him. He was going to go, he was a free agent at the end of this year. Let's get something for him.
They gave up him and cash to get a third rounder.
Yeah.
Like, if they hold on to him to the deadline, they got to get at least a third rounder for him.
Yeah.
Maybe a prospect or something. Like, it didn't make sense to me at all. Like, if in terms of asset management, especially when you are going into an off season where you're anticipating making some big deals at the free agent deadline and at the draft in terms of trading, because like they're getting impatient in Chicago, right? Like they want to start seeing some improvement. They want to see what Montreal is doing next year.
Right.
And getting that for Taylor Hall, I felt was beyond horrible.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
But this isn't about this year for Chicago. This
no,
is
no,
about
no. I'm
next
just
year. So
saying
it's
because
saving Hall's
as an
salary.
asset management,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
purely as an asset management, that was terrible.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
okay, so moving on from how the three teams did, what happens next? Because now the trade season is in full swing.
Because this is
You've
the
got a
floodgates. The
team that
floodgates
put a
open here.
flag in the ground, right?
Right.
And so does does do Toronto and New York start thinking about JT Miller in a much more serious way?
Yeah, look. I don't think the Leafs are in play for JT Miller. That would shock the heck out of me. Adding another top line player, I think what the Leafs need, if
I
they're going to
think
stick, if they're going to stick with Marner and this lineup, then what they need is support. I don't think they're going to add another top six forward. I think the Leafs are going to add secondary scoring if that's
what if
going
you
to be
traded Marner for Miller and a couple of picks?
that could possibly be. But are you in this? What I didn't even check to see what JT Miller was making when I did all my thing. So I don't know what JT Miller's making, what he's going to want in the marketplace, but what is he? He's got to be in the 6, 7, $8 million mark, isn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, for
But
sure.
so what is he going to get in a renewal, right? The same thing. So I think that's why the Leafs are going. It right now, Marner at 10.9, $11 million is kind of what it is. Let's bring in somebody. If we can win this thing, then maybe we shed something and we're in a rebuild. We won the Stanley Cup, but look, we both agree. I think unless they do something in the trade deadline drastic, they're not winning the Stanley Cup. As much as
Yeah.
it hurts me to say that, they need some secondary support. That's why, again, I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think they need to be open. It's tough because he's got a no movement clause, but you kind of got to go to him and go, this ain't working. It's hard to argue. They're first in the division, third in the conference. But I don't know. It befuddles me at the moment. And this is going back to my old dumbass routine stuff. He gave these four guys all no movement clauses, and it's coming back to haunt them right now because
Yeah.
that's going to be. I'm hoping in the next CBA that they outlaw no movement clauses because there's
Oh,
been some
that'll never
setup of it.
happen.
Yeah, I hope that
That'll
happens.
never happen.
It got to be something to reduce this. I understand guys earn it, but Marner got it in his second contract for Christ's sake. Come on.
Well, what's so bad about them?
Well, it just
Now that I
it
think
stops
about it,
movement. Like it handcuffs a team. Like when you got somebody like Marner that they should move or consider moving, and it makes it really difficult for him. Look at it. I hate that I'm bagging on a guy that's doing so well and playing so great, but he's not done it in the playoffs, and he's going to want $14 million. Like I just don't think
right?
he's worth it
Well,
at this
okay,
point.
so but let's say you can swing a trade for Miller, and we should move on in a sec. But
Yeah,
let's say you can swing a trade for Miller, sign him at 10. That leaves $4 million that you can put on to a
right,
a 4 or 5 defenseman, which they really need, or a
right,
third line center, which they desperately need.
right.
Like there's nothing like. And JT Miller is a grinder, a proven playoff performer, a competitor like nobody else. It'd be like kind
Well,
of like a Ryan O'Reilly type acquisition, but with more scoring punch.
well, here you go. If you're going to say you go for JT Miller, maybe that is the right move. But do the Leafs go to Nashville and pick up Stamkos?
They don't need a winger; they need a center.
They need somebody who can score goals. I don't care. You can
Yeah,
move people around and move things around and stuff. So, why not? He's another great goal scorer. He's not having a great year, but it might be the system
yeah,
that he's playing. And I'm just throwing that out there. Like it's just
yeah. It's an interesting idea.
if you're gonna rent a player, why not, let's
Yeah, but you're just
rent a goal scorer. I'm just popping names
yeah,
because
you're popping that one at me. I can't react to that
yeah,
one.
I think because one of the problems, and we talked about it last week before we get off this trade line, is who's going to be the sellers? Because Calgary came out this week saying they're going for it in terms not going for it to make the Stanley Cup, but they
They're
suggested this
building.
week that they're building to make they believe they can make the playoffs now. They've played well enough this year, and why not? They're sitting in a playoff spot right now. They think they can make the playoffs. They think they can do some damage. They got great goaltending right now. So why not? They're going to look like they're going to be buyers. So who's selling?
Buffalo.
Oh, what do you want off of Buffalo? Who's going to?
Dylan Cousins. I'd take Dylan Cousins off Buffalo.
Yeah, true. I guess so. You know,
I would buy low on Owen Power. They're not that thrilled with him.
uh,
Anyway, we'll talk about the trade deadline when it comes closer. Right
so
now, we've got to
good
finish up
transition.
with the second half of our Four Nations replacement player thing, and now We
Lo
were
and
going to talk
behold,
about defensemen and goalies, and lo and behold, Alex Pietrangelo is pulling out of the Four Nations because of an ailment.
yes.
Not an
Which,
injury; it's an ailment. I've never heard of a hockey player having an ailment before, but okay.
well, he's got something that's
Um,
going to keep him. The team is, well, this goes back like, would the team ask Matthews not to play in this thing? Did the team ask him not to play? He's obviously got something that's bothering him. They want
yeah,
to make a
so
stretch
he's out.
run. Yeah, he's out,
So
so
we'll
he's
talk
letting make a stretch
defenseman,
run.
and clearly we have to start with Canada. Who's your guy?
Yes.
Because you told me if I text you had a guy.
I had a guy. It was easy for me. Thinking about, again, to me, as I said last week, it's all about who goes out and who replaces them in a like-minded type of role.
Okay.
And for me, there's just no clarity that Aaron Ekblad is that guy to replace Pietrangelo. Size, same type of player, can play
But,
offensively,
but
can
Aaron
play
Ekblad
defensive.
is Swedish.
No, Aaron Ekblad, the Canadian from Florida Panthers. He's Canadian.
No way.
Ekblad is Canadian, dude.
I'm looking
Aaron,
it up right now.
Aaron Ekblad is Canadian. Canadian
Aaron
professional ice hockey player,
Ekblad.
defenseman, alternate captain for Florida Panthers. He's Canadian.
All right, he's Canadian. That sounds Swedish.
Yeah. The kid played in the World Juniors. He was like the second coming
Yeah, he's born in Windsor. How about
yeah,
that?
he's like you can't go by the names anymore, dude. He was great
Okay,
defenseman in
so
the World Juniors, but he's this like, he's got experience. He's won the cup. He's riding a high. He's playing great. He's healthy. He can take the body. He can play a mean game. He's played the power play for Florida Panthers in the playoffs last year or this year he's been playing the power play because of they got rid of Montour and Oliver Neckerman Larson. So again, I
okay.
think he's defensive. He can play on the power on the penalty kill. I think size, everything. I think this is the guy. He's an assistant captain. He's a leader. I think that's the guy you bring in.
All right. I've got an alternate uh off the board suggestion.
Okay.
Okay, because you look at Ekblad's stats
I
this
don't care about
season.
the stats. I'm going
I care
player for
about his
player.
stats. He's played 42 games, 3 goals, 19 assists. It's a +5. Okay.
Yeah. Who you got instead?
I'm going to give you another player, 47 games, 7 goals, 16 assists. He's a +22.
Who you going? Who's that?
That is Thomas Harley of the Dallas Stars.
It's just not happening. That's a team. That's yeah, I get it. I I understand why you're doing that and you're saying that, but
What do you think? I'm just messing with you?
no,
What am I
no.
doing?
I just don't know. I don't know how to react to that one. I think that is that he's obviously having a good season, but it's also in the system. Ekblad's played with these guys. To me, he's just more of the play. I don't even know what he looks
He
like.
plays with Heiskanen and knows how to play with an offensive superstar
Right.
defenseman.
Hey, if
That goes a long way.
you're
The
going
other
by
guy,
sheer stats, sure. I understand why would you say that, but I'm going to
you're
a
going with
guy
Ekblad.
I'm going with Ekblad because he's experienced. He's won the Stanley Cup. He's got leadership quality. He can play both ends of the ice, and he's big body. Take the body
What about
because
Mackenzie Weegar?
you're losing a big body in Pietrangelo. You're losing a guy that can give you a little bit of grit on the back end,
All right.
especially with the other guys you got back there. You don't need like I know Craig Button's going to be all over. Tavin should be on this team, and look, I'm a Leaf fan. I'm not taking Tavin on this team. He's too slow.
Okay. All right. So we've said all of this already. What if because Drew Doughty's skating with a full contact jersey on in practice, if he can play a couple games before the
I'd
break,
take him.
is he your guy?
I would take him. He's got to play. He's got to show me. He's got to show me that he's not got rust on him. He's got to play a couple games beforehand.
All right. So
That
if
would have
he
been my
if
top.
he's
It's been my top of my list. We've talked about this back
he
in the
should have made the
fall.
team in the first
He
place.
should have made the team in the first place and had the guy that dropped off. But then they'd be replacing two guys because if he
Yeah.
can't play, then you're replacing two. But yeah, to me, Doughty's on this team if he can play and he can prove in the next couple of weeks that he can make a contribution. There's no question.
Okay. So Canada, you're voting. We're both voting Doughty if he can go. If he's not ready, then you're going Ekblad, who I thought was Swedish.
I can't believe he was Swedish.
And I'm going with the little fanfared Thomas Harley. What about goalie? Although this is an easy one, they're not the waste.
Golly, it's Logan Thompson. Logan Thompson should be on this team, and I'm sorry.
Okay. Logan, if you're one of the 13 people listening to this, we thought you should have made the team.
Oh, absolutely. One of the 13 people.
Okay.
I was getting almost 17 downloads per episode. Come on, give us a little credit.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe he's the 16th or 17th. Okay. So now it brings us to the U.S. Who's the defenseman?
You go first on that side of the equation because I gotta.
John Klingberg. No, I'm just joking.
He's not even American.
Yes, he is. No,
he's Swedish.
Is he Swedish?
He's Finnish, isn't he? Did you forget the?
Did I plan that? Gosh. I was thinking more about the goalie, but I'll go with the goalie first. I would probably say, oh God, who did I have as the goalie? You know what? There are no injury replacements for goalie because you've got Ottinger, Swayman, and Hellebuck. You don't need any more goalies. Maybe Thatcher Demko, but he's hurt.
Yeah, he would be the guy,
it's
right?
An embarrassment to riches.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's for sure.
But U.S. born defenseman in the NHL, like it just, I'm blanking on who could be that next guy. Like,
what about Jacob Chikrin?
Yeah, he'd be a guy.
He's not on the team, is he?
No.
All right, so I'd go with Chikrin. He's playing real well.
Yeah.
For Washington of all teams.
I think I agree. Like it's a tough mix. They've got such a strong depth team right now. It's like we're just hoping nobody gets hurt between now and the next couple of weeks.
They're so deep, though. They're so deep.
But
I don't want anybody to get hurt, but I really want Caulfield to play on the team.
I hear you. I'm still not convinced he'd be the first pick. As much as he's played well and done well this year.
Well, I guess it depends on whether or not they need a center or winger.
Right.
If you need a center, you go with Tage Thompson. If you need a winger, you go with Cole Caulfield.
Right. That's why these conversations are so hard in terms of who's in and out, because you got to know who's out for who's in. And that's one of the reasons why I went to Aaron Ekblad first. As soon as I saw that it was Pietrangelo, I'm going to another like-minded defenseman that can provide a lot of what Pietrangelo provides you.
Yeah.
And has been there, won something. And look at it, he showed me a lot last year in the playoffs in the Florida Panthers. I thought he actually could have been on this team in the original.
Yeah.
Picks. I was actually surprised he wasn't.
Maybe the Canadian management thinks he's Swedish too.
Maybe. Did they call you and ask you your opinion? And they went, no, he's Swedish. Don't pick him.
By the way, I'm usually like, the game Dead or Canadian? I'm usually really good at that game. but the game Swedish or Canadian, I'm terrible at.
No question. That's fun. Oh well. So so before we go tonight, I know you're going to end with that, but who do you think the next team is going to make a move? And is it going to happen before the break for the Four Nations, or is it going to happen after? I think something's going to happen quickly now.
I think New York makes a move.
I think
they're feeling the heat. I think New York makes a move.
New York, Vancouver are the two for me.
Yeah.
And not far behind that is the Leafs.
Yeah.
I think those three teams one of those three teams are going to make a move fairly soon.
Yeah. Final word for me, Sean Monahan. See that you're out about 6 to 8 weeks with your wrist injury. Really sorry. Even though I don't want Columbus to make the playoffs over Montreal, you're a class act. You're having a fantastic comeback season, and I'm sorry to see you hurt.
There you go. Look at that. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, I have my moments.
Let's leave it on that and say goodbye. Have a great week. I look forward to next week. Hopefully, no more injuries for Team Canada. Let's hope we don't hope anybody has injuries, so let's not go there. But it's a fun week, and I look forward to seeing what happens with the trades coming up. Let's start the ball rolling here.
Start the ball rolling. Have lots to talk about. Take it easy, Phil.
You too. Have a good one. Good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.